Well, I'm overly excited about Christian Haynes, who is on the smaller side. He played guard at UConn. I think that he is going to end up bumping inside to center. Somebody who I don't think I can say who it was because it was in a work setting, but somebody had mentioned that he's probably going to be better off at center. And I kind of see not only why, but I also see a path for him to likely succeed at center. Christian Haynes from UConn, man, he moves. He moves really well. I watched him this year, and to get to see what he progressed on since last season. And I think that his foot speed, his ability to get to the next level, it's improved. And I think that with all those movement skills, are going to really help him be a highly valuable zone blocking scheme center in the NFL.
So funny, Joe. I was looking up his measurements on Blesto, and then I was like, how the heck do they not have him on Blesto? And then I realized that I was looking at last year's list. So that was fun.
Anyway.
That was a fun time. 3-year starter, has started the last, I'm pretty sure that he is up to like 47 career starts so far in his career. Yeah. I mean, he's literally he's one of the rare guys, right? And we talk about the importance of offensive linemen and quarterbacks playing a ton and having experience in college. I think it matters a ton. Like you said, he is a little bit of a smaller size guy from a guard perspective. He had a 6th round Blesto grade in the preseason, 6'2", 7/8", so right around 6'3", 312 pounds. So, solid size, nothing special. I do think there's going to be a conversation because you alluded to it already. There are people that are already talking about it. Guard or center on the next level. I personally still think he's a guard. I mean, like, I could see him playing center, right? Like, if you ask me, could he play center? I'm like, yeah, he could play center.
He's really, really compact. Like, I'm really curious what the arm length is. I also think part of it, and I don't want to say misuse, but I almost feel like it would not be an effective use of his skill set if he's not moved to center. I think that he could be a really, really good center, and he's just being asked to play guard because he's on a team with a bunch of crappy offensive linemen, and they don't have any good guys to play at that guard spot.
Man, the disrespect to Chase Lunt at offensive tackle and Valentin Senin at offensive tackle is just ridiculous right now, man. Absolutely ridiculous. Let me ask you this though, Joe. Didn't you like the power profile though?
I really like the power profile. I just
that's better served at guard than it is at center.
But I feel like how small he is, and it's not like he's heavy footed. This isn't a guy that's powerful and can't, like, his choppy feet and can't really move. He moves really well, and I think that serves very, very well when we're asking him to move in space and get to the next level. And also for having to go up against nose tackles and playing it. He just, first of all, plain and simple, he's a zone scheme guy. I think that he's going to really, really excel in a zone scheme based on the way that he moves. I was just so enamored with the way that he could move. And I really think, though, it's going to be a problem, those arms, because of how short they are, him trying to play guard in the NFL.
So I'm going to get the arm length measurement. I messaged someone yesterday. They said they would get back to me. They have not yet. I actually did not have huge arms concerns. I think that he is a little bit too aggressive at times, which I think
that is true.
Is like, I think that's his peccadillo more than anything, right? Like, he is a incredibly aggressive blocker, which I love. I think it's great because we always talk about it's easier to rein someone in than try to get aggressiveness out of you. Like, that's much easier to do, right? And I think that this kid has displacement power. I think he's incredibly physical. I think he works up to the second level, and I think he's got good, solid feet overall. So I think that he's a guard at the next level. Now, regardless, I think he's a really good interior offensive line prospect. Whether you project him at center, whether you project him at guard, he brings every skill set that I need to the table. He reminds me, I don't know if you remember this player. He's been a really good player in the NFL the last few years. Not as much this year. But Nate Davis came out of Charlotte a few years ago, who was a really good player for Tennessee. And then I think he may have gotten hurt at the end of his career at the Tennessee tenure or something, but he's on Chicago now, and I know he's not playing as well. But he was the same type of guy. I actually looked up the measurements. He was 6'3.25", so a little bit taller than Christian Haynes, but not a ton. 316 pounds. He was a little bit of what you would say is a undersized guard as far as working to the next level. But the butt kicking that he can do in the run game, the physicality, the displacement power, I really think that some of those parallels are very similar, but similar to what Nate Davis's problems were coming out of Charlotte. He was very over aggressive at times, and it caused him to kind of duck his head. Like, it wasn't a flexibility issue as far as like him being like super tight in the hips and just couldn't bend. it was just more than anything, he was trying to displace dudes consistently. Like that's just his game, right? And I think that for me, that's a lot of what Christian Haynes brings to the table. But regardless, guard, center, who cares? This kid's a starting caliber offensive lineman down the road in the NFL, in my opinion, because of the athleticism, the physicality, the power profile that he brings to the table. I think all that stuff meshes into a starting offensive lineman down the road.
I think I'm going to actually end up being a little more bullish on him than you are. I actually kind of think that, because the way that you kind of finish off that sentence, I feel like with him, I'm willing to commit and say that I think he can start pretty early on in his career. Like I think that he is a really good, and I don't guard or center, whichever spot it is. I just see somebody who has just generally great feet, can move really well. Sometimes overmatched by longer defenders. Sometimes that's like kind of where that concern comes in, but just really, really strong and well-rounded and pretty good flexibility. And I'm always just obsessed with the way he moves in space. There are a couple times on screens and whatnot, he's getting downfield. He's finding guys. He's finding work. I love guys with that mentality. I'm willing to go as far as say I think he's a top 50 kid. I really do. I'm really in. I really, really like him. I think that he is, because you know what actually kind of even reminds me of, not in terms of like play style, but I feel like his projection. Remember when Will Hernandez came out and everyone just slowly started getting more and more in on him, and then he ends up going in the very, very beginning of the second round. I don't think that there's much of a difference between Will Hernandez right now when he came out and Christian Haynes right now. I think it's certainly possible.
Yeah, but I mean, Will Hernandez ended up being not a great pick, though. When you look back at
because because his feet were much slower. His feet were much, much slower, and that's why I think that Haynes is a better player.
I don't necessarily disagree with that part. I don't necessarily disagree with that part. I think for me, I think the difference that we have in our evaluation on Christian Haynes is I wouldn't quite say great feet for me from Haynes, because I watched some more this morning. I think it's good foot quickness. Like I think that it's good, right? Or like NFL above average for an NFL starting guard, but I wouldn't say necessarily great. I wouldn't quite go there. I'm in between, Joe. I haven't even put like a firm on this one, but I'm in between a top 100 and top 150, somewhere in that ballpark.
Okay.
Regardless,
yeah,
I think that he's going to start relatively early in his career. I would say by year 2, year 3, he's a starting guard. From there, I think he's going to be a solid to good starter in the NFL and going to have a lot of upside at that position. I guess I'm not quite as bullish on the foot quickness aspect as kind of our slight difference of opinion. I mean, it's not a crazy difference of opinion in my opinion either.
Yeah, I don't know. It's weird because you and I see him as completely different, like quite literally completely different positions, but I don't know. Maybe I'm being a little too aggressive on him. I had so much fun watching this film, man. Guys who play with that demeanor as an interior offensive lineman, it's hard to find.
Joe, you had fun watching UConn film this year, huh?
Oh,
that's something, man. They've been pretty bad. They've been pretty bad.
I'm a sick MFer, man. All right, I think it's a good note to wrap us up on at Joe DeLeon at Rising Draft. Thanks for tuning in. We will be back with more, and hopefully it's with more sleep. Make sure you check out BetOnline for all of your sports betting needs. For anything that I do betting related, I go on over to betonline.ag and I use promo code BELIEVE50. BetOnline has all of the latest updated odds for the NFL and college football seasons. Anything you need, whether it's futures, live in-game betting, no matter what, your football betting needs are met at BetOnline. And again, make sure you use that promo code BELIEVE50, BLEAV50 to get a 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. BetOnline, where the game starts.